Hi, dear children. This is your ninth standard first language English class. We have chosen the first lesson, The Best Advice I Ever Had. The lesson, The Best Advice I Ever Had, is written by Mrs. Vijay Lakshmi Pandit. So now you're able to see the picture of Mrs. Vijay Lakshmi Pandit. Yes, children, the moment you see the picture, you remember she is none other than the first women president of the United Nations General Assembly, and she is also one of the Pandit Jawaharlal Nehru's sisters. Coming to a little brief about Mrs. Vijayalakshmi Pandit, she was born in the year 1900 and she expired in the year 1990. She was an Indian diplomatic, politician and a sister of India's first Prime Minister, Jawaharlal Nehru. She was active in the Indian freedom movement and held high national and international positions. She was greatly influenced by Gandhiji and became identified with the struggle for independence. She was imprisoned by the British on three different occasions in the year 1932 to 1933, 1940, and 1942 to 1943. After her husband's death in the year 1944, she traveled in the United States from late 1944 to 1946, mainly on a lecture tour. After the India's independence, she entered the diplomatic service and became India's ambassador to the Soviet Union, the United States, Mexico, Ireland, and Spain. During this period itself, she was also the Indian High Commissioner to the United Kingdom. In 1953, she became the first woman president of the United Nations General Assembly. Mrs. Vijayalakshmi Pandit died on December 1st, 1990. Before going to the explanation of the lesson, the best advice I ever had, this lesson which is given is an article written by Mrs. Vijayalakshmi Pandit in the Reader's Digest, that is the monthly magazine, when she was the High Commissioner for India in the United Kingdoms. From that magazine, this article is taken and given to you as a lesson in your textbook, children. Going with the first paragraph, the best advice I ever had came from one of the greatest souls the world has ever known, Mahatma Gandhi, on her sunny afternoon a decade ago. She says, this advice, what she is remembering, was a piece of advice that she got from the greatest souls that the world has ever seen, that is Mahatma Gandhi. When on a sunny afternoon a decade means 10 years ago. Most people pass through a period of anguish when their belief in humanity is at a low ebb. She says most of the people will be facing a very painful, it might be a physical or a mental stress, you may call it as, situation in their life when it comes to a belief in humanity is at a low ebb. That is, human being belief on some particular human beings what you have will come to a very low level. Such kind of a situation or a period even Mrs. Vijay Lakshmi Pandit was going through. When did this kind of a situation happen was, my husband had recently died, that is in 1944 her husband had died. My deep sorrow over his loss was followed by the humiliating realization that in the eyes of Indian law I had no individual existence. Along with that pain of her husband's death, she also realized one humiliating situation, that is truth, that is embarrassing truth, that in the eyes of Indian law, in the Indian law, she had no individual existence. As a woman, she had no individual existence. Along with other Indian women, I had participated for years with men in the national struggle for freedom, working and suffering side by side with them until it had finally been achieved. Yet in the law, we women were still recognized only through our relationship to men. What is she saying is, until the freedom, until the India being independent, we women had fought along with the men side by side. We never thought that we are women, we are not equal to men. We never thought in such a way. We also fought along with them for our Indian struggle, but still when it comes to Indian law, we didn't have any recognition. We only had recognition through men, is what she feels sad about. Now as a widow without a son, now she was a widow without a son means she didn't have any son, she had two daughters. I was not entitled to any share of the family property. So before it was said that when a man dies, his wife will not get any part of the property unless she has a son. If she has daughters, then she'll not be given any share of the property. Same happened with her. She was not entitled to the share of the family property, nor were my two daughters. Even her daughters were not given. I resented this. That is the bitter feeling that she had because of this galling position. Galling means irritating position. She was in a position where she completely got irritated. I was bitter towards those members of my family who supported this antiquated law. Antiquated law means outdated law. In this period, when men and women are together fighting for the freedom, there is no meaning of saying it to be women are still behind when it comes to men. There is nothing as such, but still, it was a outdated term to call women are not entitled to a family property. In that matter, she was completely feeling bitter. At this time, I went to pay my respects to Gandhiji and say goodbye. At this time, what did she do? She wanted to go and say goodbye to Gandhiji before she lived to America to take part in conference. She wanted to move to America to take part in conference. Before doing that, she went to Gandhiji to say goodbye. After our talk, he said, after some time, after their talk, he said, have you made your peace with your relatives? He will ask, have you made peace with your relatives? That means, are you all fine with your relatives? Are you happily talking with them or not? He asked. I was amazed that he would take side against me. She was amazed that he is taking side against her. That is, he is somewhere, she is feeling he is against me and he is with the relatives. Then, I have not quarrelled with anyone, I replied. She says, I have not quarrelled with anyone. I have just not spoken, that's all. But I have not quarrelled with anyone, she says. But I refuse to have anything to do with those who take advantage of an outworn law to create a difficult and humiliating situation for me. She says, I have not spoken to them, but I have not quarrelled with them. At the same time, I don't want to talk to people who are accepting that outdated law and they are making me and my daughter stand in a very embarrassing situation today. So I don't want to talk to such people, she says. After that, what happened? Let's see in the next para. To fifth para, Gandhiji looked out of the window for a moment. Then he turned to me and smiled and said, looked out of the window for some time, and he turns back and he'll smile at her and he'll start saying, you will go and say goodbye because courtesy and decency demand this. He says, in India, we still attach importance to these things. He says, you have to go and say goodbye to your relatives because in India, showing of politeness in one's behavior, that is nothing but courtesy. The meaning of courtesy is showing politeness in your behavior. And decency means good manners is more important. It is in demand in India. You can't live this. They give a most important feeling. So you can't leave this and go. You have to go and say goodbye to your relatives too, he says. No, I declared, not even to please you will I go to those who wish to harm me. She says, no, not even to please you, I'll go and say goodbye to them. Those are the people who wish to harm me. So I will not go and do this. No one can harm you except yourself, he said, still smiling. I see enough bitterness in your heart to cause you injury unless you check it. He says, no one can harm you except yourself. They can't harm you. It is you who is harming yourself, he said, even now smilingly. I see enough bitterness in your heart to cause you injury unless you check it. He says, there is enough bitterness already in you. What is the line meaning, children? Already you have lost your husband. That itself is the biggest bitterness that you have in your heart. Why are you creating future injuries to yourself? Don't do this. Go, say goodbye, make peace with them, and then go to America, he says. I remained silent, and he continued. She remains silent, she'll not utter any word, but he will continue. You are going to a new country because you are unhappy and want to escape. Just because you are not happy here, you want to escape from all these situations, so you are going to a new country. Can you escape from yourself? He says, can you escape from yourself? You want to escape from this kind of people, so you are going, but can you escape from yourself? No. Will you find happiness outside when there is bitterness in in your heart? So, see, children, when you don't have happiness in your heart, even if you go 100 kilometers away from the people whom you feel is harmful, will you feel safe? No, the pain is still there in your heart. People may not be around you. The pain is still there. So think it over, he says. Be a little humble. You have lost a loved one. That is sorrow enough, he says. Be humble, be a little polite to yourself. You have already lost a person. That itself is a enough sorrow. That itself is a biggest pain. That is enough for you. Must you inflict? Must you cause? Inflict means cause further injuries on yourself because you lack courage to cleanse your own heart. So he says, to cleanse your own heart, to make your heart clean, peaceful. Instead of doing that, you are just running away. You are just causing more pain to yourself. So don't do it. Don't lack courage also. Lack courage means strength to clean your heart. Go ask, make peace with your relatives and then move to other country, he says. Then what happened? His words would not leave me. They gave me no peace. After coming from there, his words struck her so much that it didn't give her peace of mind. After some days of severe struggle with myself, she started to struggle severely in herself. Should I go and make peace? Should I talk to them? Was Gandhiji's words really true? Should I do something now? And finally, she telephoned to her brother-in-law. Brother-in-law is husband's brother. For him, she gave her call. I would like to see you and the family, I said before leaving. She says, before I leave this country, I want to meet you and the family, she says. I hadn't been with them 5 minutes before I sensed that my visit had brought a feeling of relief to everyone. So she didn't stay there for a long time. When she got to know her visit has given them some kind of relief. At that moment, she thought of moving away. So, what did she do in that time before making them feel relieved? I told them of my plan and asked for their good wishes before starting on this new stage of my life. She wanted to just tell them all about her plan of her and ask them for their good wishes before she start on this new journey of her life. What happened then? The effect on me was miraculous. So after she say all this and after they give her good wishes, it was a magic in herself. I felt as if a great burden, the great load had been lifted. Burden is nothing but load had been lifted and I was free to be myself. So now what Gandhiji said was really true, she felt. The load that was on her head had now given her a big relief and she was feeling really lightweighted, happy now to move to another country. Next, what happens in the next paragraph, we'll see. To the 11th para. This small gesture was the beginning of a significant change in me. So this small gesture means action of hers was the beginning of a very important, significant means important change in me, that is in herself. A year and a half later, I was in New York. After 1.5 years, she was in New York as a leader of the Indian delegation to the United Nations. In United Nations, she was a leader of Indian delegation, delegates, whoever are we call as important people, VIP or whatever we call such kind of delegates. For them, she was a leader in United Nations. Important to us was India's complaint regarding the treatment of people of Indian origin in South Africa. So now it was a meeting in that the complaint was that Indian origin people who are residing in South Africa were treated very badly. The treatment for them was given very badly. That was the complaint. So harsh things were said by both sides. So now opponent party is sitting beside, in front, and these people are, she is talking towards India. So now those people who are called to be opponents are striking very harsh words for her. I um, I resented. Resented means feel bitterness. She was feeling bitter for the manner in which my opponents made personal attacks harmful to India's prestige. India's prestige means respect. For that and to mine as well. She says she felt bitter for the manner the opponent party was throwing all personal attacks on the India's prestige, and for her also it was very shameful, or you can call it was very harsh. I struck back with the same sharp weapon. She didn't stop there. She also started to give them harsh words, bad words, you can call them as harsh words in the way how they treated her. She also didn't leave them. So this actually brought a different kind of a feeling in her. What happened after listening to the advice what he gave? Nobody can harm yourself except yourself, was the advice given by Gandhiji. So that advice she recalled even here, I believe. Yes or no, children? In the first advice that she recalled was when she had to make peace with her relatives. Next time, when did she remember that advice is here? How? Then, after a distressing duel of words, duel means fight of words. I also said bad things to them, they also said bad to us. I suddenly thought of Gandhiji. She remembered Gandhiji. Would he approve? She questions herself. Would he approve if they speak bad to us? Even if I turn back to them in the bad manner, will he, if he was here, will he approve? Is the question that comes to her mind. To him, means were as important as the end. What is the meaning of this line, children? Your action speaks, your end result is what he thinks. If they speak wrong, I should not do it. If I do, then it shows my manners, is what he thinks. In the long run, perhaps more important. So today it is fine, but tomorrow it continues. What feeling that they have about us will continue, is what he thinks, is what now she recalls. What if we succeeded in getting our resolution passed by questionable tactics that injured our self respect? What she thinks was, what if today, whatever that I want is got? By this argument, what I want is people to be treated properly in South Africa, our Indian people. I wanted it and I got it. But today's my action may injure tomorrow's meeting, further India's meeting, whatever it might be. They may think Indians are same because of the words that I used. They may use, but how can I use, is what she feels. Before going to bed that night, I resolved that come what might, no word of mine would be lightly used in UN. She then remembers that night she'll resolve the issue. She'll resolve it by, she thinks, whatever that may come, but my words should never make my India's prestige to be treated to be in a lower level, is what she thinks. In the UN, in the United Nations, our respect for India should never go low, is what she thinks. From then on, I lifted the debate back to where it belonged. Again, they might have quarreled with us, but I shouldn't do it, is what I thought. And to the main purpose, what it is, I started from there. Refusing to retaliate. Retaliate means attack back similarly. I stopped attacking them similarly as what they are doing to personal attacks or to score a cheap point. I didn't do any of these two. Our opponents met us on the new level, and from then we argued the case on its merits. So the opponents were able to find the difference. Once when they were attacking with the harsh words, I too did it. So it took it in a the matter went in a very wrong way. The solution was not got in a good manner. So now when I stopped in behaving as cheap as them, they started to recognize it, and now they and I together took the case on its merits. Merits means in a quality manner of being very particularly good. They also behaved well, I also behaved well. So she taught them how to speak now. This is what this line says. Before leaving the committee room on the last day, I went up and spoke to the leader of the opposing delegation. So now to the opposite party person, delegate, that person, she before leaving that particular committee room, the last day, she'll go and meet him. What did she do there? I have come to ask you to forgive me if I have hurt you by any word or action in this debate, she says finally. I'm sorry if I have hurt you from my words or by my actions, she says. He shook my hand warmly and said, I have no complaint. So now he will shook her hand very warmly and he says, I have no complaint. It was good to feel right with him, but even better to feel right with myself. Now this person has now felt happy for the gesture, for the action. Now she has gone personally and felt sorry for any of her actions that she might have done. So that fellow now has felt very warm, and he also said, I have no complaint. This situation gave her a lot of peacefulness. She felt happy not just for him, for her own way. For the way she went and asked him sorry, for that she felt happy for herself. Once more, Gandhiji's advice had saved me from myself. So this advice had saved her for herself, not for others' sake, for herself to become good, better in her life. This advice had helped her. Going to the next para. Coming to 17th para, his words have helped me retain perspective even in small matters. So she's saying Gandhiji's words has helped her to retain, to keep her attitude. Perspective means her point of view or attitude even in a small matters. Many women, I imagine, share with me a recurring nightmare. Many women with her share their recurring means repeating nightmare. Nightmare means frightening and unpleasant dream. Such kind of a dream they come and share with her. Someone important to you is coming to dine. In their dreams, somebody important to them come to the dinner party. The guests have arrived. They have arrived. It is time to eat, but there is no dinner. It is time to eat, but there is no dinner at all prepared. You wake, perspiring, relieved to find it is only a dream. So, perspiring means sweating. You wake up sweating, but you find it is just a dream. Such kind of a nightmares many have discussed with her. But recently it really happened to me. She says recently such kind of situation actually happened to her. My guests of honor, who were her guests of honor, the Prime Minister of Great Britain and Lady Eden. These two people could hardly have been more important to me, High Commissioner for India in the United Kingdoms. For her, they might be a little important to her being a High Commissioner of India in United Kingdom. Those two people have arrived for the dinner. I had planned everything meticulously means very carefully from the menu of the dinner to the color scheme of the flowers and the candles, the flower decoration, candles, everything she had very carefully, neatly done. When the guests had arrived and drinks had been passed twice. Once the guest had arrived, she had asked her teammates to pass the drinks twice. Once you ask for the drinks, next time you ask them, do you need one more? once the guest had arrived and the two rounds of the drink was over, she signaled the butler to announce dinner. So she signaled the butler to announce for the dinner. But still we waited. But they waited for a long time. When for the third time drinks came around, I excused myself and ran downstairs to the kitchen. So third time was not in her menu. The third time drink should not be served is what she had told the butler and her teammates. But now the third time also the drink came. Suddenly she'll ask an excuse to do these two people and she'll run downstairs to the kitchen. It presented a shocking sight. As soon as she goes near to the kitchen, a shocking sight that she could see. In one corner stood a frightened little kitchen maid. A kitchen maid was standing very scared in a very scared manner. In another, the housekeeper. To the other corner, the housekeeper was standing. At the table sat my cook. The cook sat on the table waving a ladle. Ladle is nothing but a large spoon and singing. He was very carelessly sitting on a chair and he was singing, waving the large spoon, beating time with his foot. Beating time with his foot means he was not cared about the time. He was just spending time without thinking what the actual thing he has to be doing. His eyes were glassed and he was far away in some other sphere. His eyes was glassed means blank and he was completely dull looking and he was far away in some other sphere. I think he had drunk and he was in his own sphere. He was not here. The table was littered with pieces of chicken. The table was all where spread with little pieces of chicken. My knees felt too weak to support me. That means she couldn't say anything more. She completely was in sync. That means guests have arrived and there is no food properly cooked. This fellow is beating time now. He is not worried about what to do. Now what she should do? She couldn't, her legs did not support her, but I asked in as normal a voice as I could command. She normally asked. She did not become very angry. She did not raise her voice. She normally asked, why isn't the dinner ready? Why is the dinner not ready? But it is ready, madam, my cook chanted. In a very other sphere he was, no? So he will chant saying, the food is ready, madam. Then all ready. Everybody sit down, sit down. So then everybody, she says, already it is done. Then everybody sit down, sit down. I was furious. She was in furious means extreme anger. It was on the tip of my tongue to say, get out, you're dismissed. She was about to say the cook that get out, you are dismissed. But still she controlled her anger. When I thought of the counsel means advice that had claimed me so many times. So every time when she comes in such a situation, she remembers the advice given by Gandhiji and she becomes calm. If I lost control, I would only hurt myself. So if she loses the control, she would lose herself, not the situation. Situation may go worse. Then she keeps thinking about the situation and she gets hurt. So she thinks about this and she remains calm. I pulled myself together. Let's get something on the table, I said. So she pulled herself together and she became calm for herself. She did not become excited. She did not overreact. She just calmly said, let's get something on the table. She says, the cook and the maid over there and the housekeeper, everyone over there, let's get something on the table, I said. And she becomes peaceful. Then what happens? Let's see in the next paragraphs. Coming to the last three paragraphs of this lesson, 23rd paragraph says, everyone pitched in. The food served wasn't quite what the menu described, but when I told my guests what had happened, there was a chorus of surprise. So everyone started towards the dinner place. The food served wasn't quite what the menu described. The menu, as she said before, she actually very carefully managed of everything when it comes to menu of the dinner and about the color of the flower and the candles, everything. But now the menu was not as she described, had to be what she wanted it to be. It was a different one and she'll tell the guests about it. What happened there was a chorus of surprise. Even I was surprised to see the menu here. this was not what I wanted it to be served, she says. So people over there, they exclaim saying, if this is what your cook gives you when he is drunk, someone says, what must he provide sober? Sober means when he is not drunk. So as I told you, he was glassed means he was dull and his eyes was blank. He was drunk, I believe I said, So here they are saying, if this is what your cook gives when he is drunk, then imagine what he would give when he is not drunk. Maybe the food was good. The relief in my laughter must have sounded a little hysterical. Hysterical is nothing but very crazy. The relief in her laughter, she felt as if the food was good, I think. People all liked it. So she started to laugh. That actually was like a crazy thing. My perspective restored. Her point of view was restored. I realized that a dinner party, however important, is not the pivot of existence. It's not the main cause for anybody's existence. Then she recalled. Then she felt, if I would have screamed at the cook, and if the dinner party would have gone wrong, if I was in an angry mood, what would have happened? Those who have come would have eaten something that is provided here, and they would have left. But I would have gone through this pain. I would have suffered by the pain that has caused by myself. I have caused it to myself. This would take me long way. So she says, this is not the main cause of my existence. This dinner party, whether it would have gone well or not, this is not the cause for my existence. So let me leave here, she felt. To retain a sense of proportion is as important as being able to keep one's heart free from hatred. She says, you may want everything to happen in your fingertip as you wanted it to be, but still, the main thing that actually matters is keeping your heart very free without any hatred. Hatred means without any feeling of enmity. So, for all of us, she is giving an advice, no matter what our work. The advice Gandhiji gave me is meaningful, whatever the work might be. The Gandhiji's lesson, advice, what he gave. No one can harm you but yourself. If you remember this, then for every other problems in your life, this gives a solution, and this makes you calm according to the situation, is what she gives an advice to us through Gandhiji's advice. Children, I hope you all understood the complete lesson thoroughly and the meanings were appropriate. When I was saying this particular lesson explanation, I wanted you to keep a book and a pen. I hope you did it. So now let's end this explanation and go to the assignment part. Coming to the assignment part, as I told you, I wanted you to keep a pen and a book beside you to write down the hard words meaning. So now the hard words meanings you might have written, and the and 5 meanings are asked you for you to write. I hope you will write this and name them as the second mean. So here I have listed 6 first women president, judge, IPS officer, president of India, prime minister of India, governor in India. For all these question, I want you to answer, and then answer in a sentence each. What is an antiquated law? How did Gandhiji make Mrs. Vijayalakshmi Pandit meet her relatives? Very prescribed, very neatly in just 1 or 2 lines. I want you to write the answer for this. Why was Mrs. Pandit going to America according to Gandhiji? Why was she going to America according to Gandhiji? Because she wanted to escape from the galling position what she was facing, and she wanted to have some peace going outside, is what Gandhiji says. I want you to write as it is in the paragraph in a indirect speech. Okay, so hope you all will keep the assignments ready, and thank you children. Take care.